Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome along to Circuit Zolder. We will very shortly have coming up the fourth round of the 2018 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for the EuroNASCAR 2 division. It's great to be back at Belgium, this fantastic circuit which first hosted Formula One back in 1973. It was actually a joint arrangement between the Nivelles-Bourlesque circuit, which held it in 72, and it used to do alternate years between Nivelles-Bourlesque and Zolder, whilst at the time Spa-Francorchamps was being redeveloped. However, it last held Formula One in 1984, and it's been the home of the Belgian round of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series since 2015. We had some great racing yesterday. We've just seen some of the highlights from some of the fantastic and pure racing that we had yesterday. But let's have a look at the circuit configuration, because the cars will be heading round very shortly. The 4-kilometre circuit here at Circuit Zolder, which contains 16 bends in reality. You can see there's some fast and some sweeping sections, some slower sections which are largely turn 5 and turn 6, 8 and 9 and 15 and 16. Now there's the chicanes that have been put in over the years around the old configuration of circuit just to slow the cars down a little bit. But around this 2.485 mile circuit, we will see these EuroNASCAR 2 drivers competing over the course of 15 laps once more, as they did yesterday. If you didn't tune in yesterday, we managed to catch up with Jacques Villeneuve, who gave us his thoughts and gave us a bit of an insight into the track.
Zolder, a very reference point for braking. So, and it's all dark also, so visually it's difficult to see where the corner is. And it's a very wide corner where you can turn in tight, wide, many different lines, complex. Then you're having to turn 2 where you just have to carry speed. You slow down, but you don't brake hard. You have to carry speed through the corner, and all the way out, it's always turning. It's not a corner where the exit is straight. Then turn 3 is completely flat out with a little bit of banking. That's not so bad, in the dry anyway. Turn 4 is a corner where you just touch the brakes a little bit and you carry the speed in. It's quite quick. Then you get into a chicane that's not very fun to drive, and you have to take a lot of curbing, so you can lose a lot of time. You also damage the car when you take a lot of curb and go fast. Then you go over the hump. It's a blind corner, but it's flat out into the next chicane, which is quite tight, very slippery. There's tires to avoid. If you can take the curbs a lot, you can gain a lot of time. The whole exit is in acceleration. The first bit you have to lift a little bit to make the car turn, then it's flat out all the way. The car normally moves a little bit, but you manage to just make it flat out. To get into the hairpin, you hit the brakes as you get off the hill at the bottom. Very tight corner, so the tendency is to go straight, to lock the rear wheels. Maybe put first gear if you have understeer to turn the car. Difficult corner, an overtaking zone. Last acceleration into the last chicane where there's also the pit entrance. Also a tight corner in second gear where there's a heavy braking and should be another braking zone. But if you mess up there, then you won't have any good exit and you'll get overtaken to the next straight line.
It's always good to catch up with Jacques Villeneuve and gauge his thoughts on Circuit Zolder. A little bit of clearing up just being done from one of the support races, so we are going to be about 10 minutes late getting our EuroNASCAR 2 race underway, but the officials and the circuit staff and the marshals in particular all working as hard as they can to clear cars that were involved in an incident towards the tail end of the support race that's just finished. So it's always great to be here at Circuit Zolder. We have seen some great racing here over the years in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. We still get visits from things like what used to be called the Blancpain Series. It has its own 24-hour race here at Spa, as well as FIA trucks always come here. And on 2 wheels, we still occasionally see the German IDM Superbike Series come here. So it's a circuit that's hugely popular with all of the drivers and the fans. The marshals quite enjoy it as well, albeit today it's rather autumnal in Belgium. The circuit is drying, however, because it's quite a cold ambient temperature today, it's taking a while for the circuit to dry properly, and it's going to be a really difficult decision as to what tyres to take. Now, the race has been declared as a wet race by the race director, so what that in reality means is that it's down to the drivers and the teams now, as the clearing up still continues from that support race, to decide what they want to do. If they go on a wet tyre, the treaded general tyre, then in reality the circuit's going to dry more as the wind gets up. You can see it's quite breezy here at the moment, and the ambient temperature will slightly raise, but also the circulation of the cars will dry that track. Now the wet tyre is probably going to be the tyre to be on at the beginning of the race, but at the end of the race those tyres are really going to be feeling it. And as we saw yesterday with Tobias Downhau dropping through the order, started on the outside of the front row of the grid. The championship leader, number 50 Hendricks Ford, coming into this weekend, they'd set the tyre pressures too high in that particular race, and that was why he ended up dropping all the way down through the order and didn't score as many points. However, those drivers that choose in this race coming up to start on the slick tyre are really going to struggle at the beginning, but they should come on strong at the end. It's going to be a really intriguing race to see how this one goes. So that's what's coming up shortly here at Circuit Zolder. We've already had one race weekend though. That was our first ever visit to Vallelunga for the Italian NASCAR Grand Prix just outside of Rome. So let's look back at some of the highlights from EuroNASCAR 2 in Vallelunga. So that was some of the highlights from Vallelunga. That was the EuroNASCAR Pro Division highlights that we've just seen, where the reigning EuroNASCAR Pro champion, Loris Hazemans, claimed victory in the first of the two races. And in the second of the two races, Gianmarco Ercoli returned to victory lane. That was only his second career win in the top flight of European NASCAR, EuroNASCAR Pro. And it was his first win since Brands Hatch of 2018. So it's great to see him back in victory circle. But the cars that are heading out onto circuit shortly are the division lower than that. It's the same car, it's shared by different drivers largely, but drivers with less experience, the young and the amateur drivers that are out in EuroNASCAR 2. So they were also competing at Valencia. They had both of their races on the Saturday. So let's look back and see what happened for EuroNASCAR 2 at Vallelunga. So it was a double win for the German, the 22-year-old Tobias Downhau in EuroNASCAR 2 at Vallelunga on what was really his first racing weekend, having come through the NASCAR recruitment program for the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series in 2020. So he came into this weekend leading the championship, 40 points for each one of those wins in Italy. So 80 points coming into this weekend leading the championship. But yesterday, the team sort of held their hands up a little bit and said they messed up a little bit. They set the tyre pressures too high in that race earlier on. So whilst Tobias Downhau started on the outside of the front row of the grid, the German could only muster 10th position, I'm afraid. So he's got a poorer set of or haul of points from yesterday, but also because those tyre pressures were too high, it's fastest lap times from yesterday's race that set the grid for today. So that has also compromised his grid position for today. He starts down in 12th position on the grid. He wasn't the only car that had tyre pressures set a little bit too high, because also Hendrix Motorsport again held their hand up and said they did exactly the same for the number 18 car, Vittorio Garelli. So that's another car that struggled really early on with tyre pressures. They said the drivers knew almost straight away that the car was just skidding around, and I think the actual words they used was that it was just like driving on ice. So Vittorio Garelli set a slightly quicker lap time in the race, so he will actually start 8th position. If we add the points that were accumulated yesterday together, despite the poorer result for Tobias Downhau, he does still lead the championship. He was only leading by 11 points coming into this weekend from Alessandro Brigatti, and a further point off that was Vittorio Garelli. But when we then add the results from yesterday, Tobias Downhau is now on 107 points, leading the championship still, as second, but only 3 points adrift of him. Bearing in mind there's 40 for a win, it's Alessandro Brigatti who has closed the gap and remains second in the championship. And moving up from 4th to 3rd in the championship now is the Italian Nicolas Risitano. Risitano is going to start this race 5th position on the grid. That means that dropping down to 4th is Vittorio Garelli. But it's the early stages of a shortened season, but we've still got lots of racing to come. There's this race here, which is round 4 of the championship. Then we'll have round 5 and round 6 will take place at Most in Czechia, or the Czech Republic as it used to be called. And then our final 4 races of the season will all take place over a bumper weekend, really, the finals weekend, at Valencia at Circuit Ricardo Tormo. So there's still lots of racing to come. And remember, those finals weekends, it's double championship points that are available to the drivers. So the cars will very shortly be rolling their way down pit lane. Fantastic shot of the mirroring on the windows of the cars rolling their way out of their pit boxes down towards pit lane exit here at Circuit Zolder. And then from there, the cars will work their way around onto the grid. Now, for the drivers, actually the delay might have helped the teams and the drivers, because it's given them an extra maybe 10 or 15 minutes to understand what the weather's doing. We can see the wind generators there, which means that yes, we've still got that breeze here. You can see the circuit is still damp, but it's only going to improve, and it's still a real knife-edge decision, I think, as to which way to go. If I were the drivers, I would consider where you are on the grid. If you're on the grid and you're on wet tyres at the front, you might be able to break away in the early stages, and then you're just going to have to really be holding people up towards the end, getting cleanly off the corners and trying to hang on to your place. If you're further down the grid, roll the dice a bit more, maybe go on to slicks. You'll lose time at the beginning, but that's not a bad thing, because you know the race will come back to you, and it's just like playing a game of chess, really. Wait until the time is right for you in the car with the tyres that you've got on board, and the conditions then are ticking the same box as well, so everything is lined up, and then push as hard as you possibly can, whether that's the front of the race or the back of the race. If it were me, I think I'd go slicks. I think I'd risk it and go slicks, but easy to say when you're in the commentary box here in Belgium. More difficult when you're behind the wheel of the car and you've got a championship to think about. So cars working their way around, we will get them lined up on the grid, and then we'll guide you through that grid. There goes the championship leading car. You can see the stripes down the centre of it, the Dutch national flag all the way down the centre of it, you could argue, with the coloration of it. And even on this out lap, a little bit of weaving being done, a little bit of accelerating and braking. And for the drivers, this is an exploratory lap as well. It gives them information that they can feed back to the teams as to whether they have made the right decision on tyres, and if they haven't made the right decision, what can they do to try and improve the situation. And it might just be a simple case of on the grid changing the pressures very slightly, a slight change to the pressures, if the regulations even allow them to change the tyre pressures once the cars have left the pit lane, and will be lining up on the grid very shortly. Now there's one car that is not going to be out in this race, the number 17 Shadow Racing Cars by 42. Alex Ciompi is not going to make it onto the grid, I'm afraid. because Bernardo Manfredi, who drove that car in EuroNASCAR Pro, had an incident in it yesterday. The car's fine, it's just that it's misaligned a few bits on it, and I think driver in consultation with the team have decided it's far, far better to leave the car for the moment, to spend a bit more time on getting it absolutely right and then bringing it back out onto track, and that might be later on this afternoon for EuroNASCAR Pro. I suspect it will probably be get it back to the workshop and then work on it, and the car will reappear when we head to Most in the Czech Republic for the second ever visit of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series to the Czech Republic. It was a great addition to the calendar in 2019, and I think we're all delighted and really looking forward to going back towards Czechia and Most, where we were given a fantastic reception, and it was a very, very popular event with crowds in their thousands and thousands flocking to it for their first taste of EuroNASCAR. So the cars slowly beginning to line up on the grid. Yesterday, as we saw in the highlights, it was a win for Martin Dubek. Now, he also set the fastest lap of the race as well, so having become a first-time winner in EuroNASCAR 2 yesterday, the Czech driver lines up on his in his Hendricks Ford on the front row of the grid. That's the black car with sort of the blue bonnet to it and the yellow flashes down the side. So he claimed his first career win yesterday in EuroNASCAR 2 and would be absolutely delighted with that. The 25-year-old, he's been around the EuroNASCAR scene for about 5 years now. We first saw him in 2015. He finished 13th in the championship back in 2018, and last year he did a bit of Elite 1, as it was called then. It's now called EuroNASCAR Pro for this year. He did a bit of EuroNASCAR Pro last year and EuroNASCAR 2. He finished 8th overall in the EuroNASCAR 2 standings, and as a result of that win yesterday, that will have improved his position, because he was a driver that didn't appear at Vallelunga because of a positive test for coronavirus and COVID-19. He was self-isolating at the time, so was not able to compete in it. So he'll be hugely pleased that he was able to pick up that win yesterday and grabbed his first points of the season, which means that he sort of languishes a little bit down in 20th position in the championship standings. But as we say, you know, that is 2 rounds of the championship that he's not competed at, round 1 and round 2, both of which were held at Vallelunga. So the grid is now fully formed. Let's guide you through the grid for this one. Pole position goes the way of the number 7 Hendricks Ford of Martin Dubek. He sits there to the right-hand side of your screen, the black car with the blue and the yellow flashes to it. And alongside, it's black from the front, but it's got light green livery to it. The Monster Energy Chevrolet in the hands of Guillaume Dumouriez, who has been a race winner here previously in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series at Zolder. It is his home NASCAR Grand Prix. So that is Martin Dubek and Guillaume Dumouriez on row number 1 of the grid. Row 2 of the grid, that is number 8, which is Alessandro Brigatti, racing for Feedvict Racing, which is the new team that's come into EuroNASCAR this year. It is co-founded by Jacques Villeneuve and Patrick Lemery. We will see both of those competing in the EuroNASCAR Pro race later on, but the number 8 car is sort of the red car with the black roof and bonnet. You just see the checkers down the centre of it as well, over to the right-hand side of your screen. That is Alessandro Brigatti, and alongside is number 11. Really impressed with Julia Landauer over the course of this weekend, the American who joins the championship for this year, the 28-year-old who finished 5th in the race yesterday, but set a good lap time and lines up 4th on the grid. It's silver and blue with the Dayglow yellow flashes to it on the left-hand side of your screen on row number 2. Row 3 of the grid is number 12, which is Nicholas Risitano, who finished 3rd in yesterday's race. He's at the wheel of the largely orange and black Solaris Motorsport Chevrolet. So it's Ford and a Chevy on row number 1, 2 Chevys on row number 2. Row 3, Nicholas Risitano in his Chevy, but alongside is number 98. That's another Ford again. That's the Cal Racing Ford of Dylan Daredala. It's another orange car, but it's got more white to it. You can't quite see it on the 3rd row because it's just tucked up behind Julia Landauer as the national anthems play on the build-up to our 4th round of the 2020 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series EuroNASCAR 2 division. Row 4 of the grid, it's white and pink. You can just see it off to the left-hand side of the screen. That is the Cypriot driver driving the number 1 car, just 23 years of age. Used to race in FMP Formula 4 and did a bit of Formula Renault as well. Another driver that's come through the recruitment programme. Well, that is Vladimir Putin, who sits there on row number 4, and alongside is car number 18. I mentioned dropped from 3rd to 4th in the championship yesterday. We can't quite see the car. 5 minutes to go before we get the rolling lap underway. It is the number 18 car in the hands of the 26-year-old Italian Vittorio Garelli. Came into the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series last year as a rookie. had a really solid season. He finished third in the EuroNASCAR 2 standings last year. A former champion in AutoGP as well, which was for the ex-A1GP cars that then sort of found their way into other things as well. That was a few years ago though. That was 7 years ago, 2013. But also in his single-seater career, nearly got to Formula 1 actually, did Vittorio Garelli. Not quite, worked his way through Formula Renault and Formula 3 and then up to GP3 and then made it into GP2, but it never quite worked for Vittorio. But the 26-year-old Italian has lost none of his pace whatsoever. Great to see him back for his second season on row number 4. And row number 5 is car number 66 as the national anthems continue to play on the build-up to the EuroNASCAR 2 race here at Circuit Zolder. The inside of that 5th row of the grid is where we see number 66, 23-year-old Dane, which is Andreas Jochumsen. Ex-FIA CIK Carter. He did Thundersports for a couple of years as well in 2017 and 2018, and last year he was the Super GT Denmark amateur champion. So championship under his belt last year, but into the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series as a rookie for this year. And alongside him is number 42, and 42 is the Shadow Racing Cars by 42 Ford Mustang in the hands of ex-Formula 4 Italy and Lotus Cup Italy racer Francesco Garisto. He is yet another driver who has come through the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series recruitment programme, and he is, I think, the youngest driver that we've got on the grid. Just 17 years of age is Francesco Garisto, and having to muscle this 450 brake horsepower car around this tight and twisty and fast in some sections and also rather greasy Circuit Zolder. So that is 42 on the outside of row number 5. Row number 6 of the grid is 43. Now 43 is the PK Car Sport Chevrolet of Belgian driver Paul van Poelart. We've seen Paul do a few NASCAR Whelen Euro Series races in the past. He did the Hockenheim round in 2018, and last year we saw him out twice. He did the Hockenheim round again, but also came out for his home NASCAR Grand Prix as well, which was at Zolder. So that's a number 43 car on row number 6, and alongside is number 50, which is the championship leader and 2 times winner at Vallelunga. 3 minutes to go before we get the rolling lap underway. On the outside of that 6th row is number 50, which is Tobias Downhau, as I say, leading the championship. Tobias, albeit now by a slightly reduced margin. It was 11 points, it's now down to 3 following his poorer result yesterday, as the grid is just now starting to clear. The next row of the grid is row number 7. That's where we see number 88, which is Max Lancer. Former bike racer was Max Lancer, motorcycle racer, raced in GT Italia as well, but has been part of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for a couple of years now. The charismatic 40-year-old Italian racing for Cal Racing. His car is sort of yellow and black with a black number down the side, but it's way down the grid, and we can't see it from the camera angles available to us today. Alongside him is number 33, which is Eric Quintal. Now, he has for this year moved over to join the Mitsubishi Motors car. Eric, who is a stalwart, you could argue, of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, sporadically racing for 10 years now in it, so all the way back to the early days of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. I think 2010 was the first time we ever saw Eric Quintal out in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, and has sort of not done full seasons since, but has sort of dropped in and out of the series. Always good to see him on the grid. One of the older drivers we've got. I think he might be the oldest driver on the grid. He's 56 years of age nowadays. Former French GT racer, and also raced in the French Caterham Championship for a number of years, did Eric. So row number 8 of the grid is, as the drivers are now given the instructions to start their engines, so the grid will be rolling its way over the start-finish line very, very shortly. We get the rolling lap underway. The next row of the grid is row number 8. Now that is 48. That is the Marco Steep Motorsport car of Yevgeny Sokolovsky. Now, it was scheduled to have been for this weekend, Gasper Danovsik, but Gasper has injured his hand, I'm afraid to say, so we wish him all the best as he recovers from a hand injury. So Yevgeny Sokolovsky has now opted to drive this car, both in Elite 1 and in Elite 2 as well. Yevgeny, who's a former bike racer and team owner as well in the Yamaha Cup. He also raced at Venray, the circuit up in Holland, late model V8s in there, and is another driver, yet again, who's come through the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series recruitment programme. So that's number 48, and alongside is 54, which is the lady Cup champion from 2016-2019. She was runner-up in the 2 years in between, in 17 and 18. That is 46-year-old Ariana Casali, as the cars head on to their formation lap. for what is potentially, again, I gather, possibly another safety car start. We'll wait and see because of the greasy conditions and the fact that there's a good chunk of rookies on the grid. The 9th row of the grid is 64. That is the 54-year-old German, Matthias Hauer, former VLN racer. Finished 20th in the EuroNASCAR Pro standings in 2018. He swapped over to EuroNASCAR 2 last year, but didn't do many rounds, so actually ended up 22nd in the championship standings. But it's always good to see Matthias out. And alongside his 89, which is Igor Romanov, racing for Not Only Motorsport. He is Ukrainian. He has previously completed in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series Club Challenge or will be in 2020, I think, doing a few rounds of that, but he's also racing EuroNASCAR 2, and he's another driver yet again who's come through the recruitment program. Log on to the website if you want details on that, just EuroNASCAR.com, and you can pick up details on the recruitment program if you're a racing driver that thinks you have sufficient in your portfolio that shows that you are maybe eligible for an invitation to the recruitment program. It's well worth doing, because it potentially can open some doors to you. The 10th and final row of the grid is car number 6, which is Simon Palat, semi-finalist in the Feedfit Racing's recruitment process for 2019. 18 years of age, the Belgium, so at his home NASCAR Grand Prix. Had problems yesterday, was tipped into a spin, I'm afraid to say, by Andreas Jacobsen, I think it was, who was given a drive-through penalty for his involvement in it, but it put Simon Palat out on lap number 4, so he starts off the back of the grid. Didn't set really a representative lap time before his retirement, and scheduled to be alongside. He was ill yesterday with a stomach upset. Let's hope that he is feeling a little bit better today, and just hang around, and if we can hang on to that shot, might be able to see whether he's on the back of the grid. We are scheduled to have car number 22, which is Andre Castro. Now, Andre is the reigning esports champion for this year. Before we were able to go racing for real, Andre is on the back of the grid, thankfully. He claimed the esports championship, so the iRacing supported championship that we had during the COVID lockdown. Andre Castro claimed that. He was 18th in the EuroNASCAR 2 standings last year, but missed a couple of rounds and had some bad luck along the way. So 18th in the standings doesn't really justify how quick he was throughout the course of the season. But for the former US Formula 4 2000 racer and kart racer as well, the 21-year-old American, back for a second go at EuroNASCAR 2. So it is safety car bringing them round. It is going to be a safety car start, so I don't think we're going to get too many laps behind the safety car. We had just a couple in EuroNASCAR Pro yesterday. For EuroNASCAR 2 in really wet conditions, we had, I think it was 3 or 4, and then when we get the rolling lap completed, unlike yesterday where we saw them in single file as the safety car came in, the instructions that we're receiving from race control is that whilst it's a safety car restart, it will be a side-by-side restart, which is really going to open up the possibilities. And when we say that side-by-side restart, what we mean is bumper to bumper with the car ahead of you and behind you, door handle to door handle with the car either to your left or your right, depending on which side of the grid that you are on. And when the green flag flies, you can't break out of those two definitive clear lines of cars, one on the right side of the circuit, one on the left. You have to stay in that line until you reach the start-finish line, and only then can you break away from that line. If you brake too early, you will get penalties, and that is a slightly draconian penalty, to drive-through penalty, which is going to drop you way down through the order and really undo some of the hard work that the drivers have been looking to do. So in yesterday's race, Martin Dubeck claimed victory by 10.8 seconds in the end from Alessandro Brigatti, who was about 6 seconds ahead of Nicholas Risitano. Tobias Downhau, the championship leader, finished in a lowly 10th position, so he has got work to do in this one. And also another car that was right up there but had problems in the closing stages and dropped it into the gravel trap is that car there, which is Dylan Derdala. So he is going to have a little bit of work to do from 6th on the grid. Thankfully set a good lap time before he disappeared off into the gravel, but he's another car that I would expect to potentially make up a couple of positions. So safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap. The cars will be getting themselves into neat 2x2 order, ready for this start, and then we can see as to who's going to come out on top in the 4th round of the championship. So the drivers will now be receiving the instructions as they come through turn number 12, 13 and 14, the little kink at Jochen Rinckbocht. Before it is the tighter right-hander, which is Boulderberg Bocht. They'll be getting the instructions to get themselves into 2x2 order, and then the safety car will not come into pit lane entry. It will peel just where the marshals are waving the yellow flag. It will hang a left there, right on the screen as we look at it, and then it will then be up to Martin Dubeck to control the pace at the front and wait until he can get his foot down and see whether he can lead the charge up towards Erst, which is the first corner, the left-hander, difficult first corner, as we heard from Jacques Villeneuve. No real reference point at which to brake. So, cars just coming through the Jackie X chicane. Buckle up, everybody. We're about to go green for the second time this weekend in EuroNASCAR 2. Green flag is just about to be waved on the podium, and we're away and racing EuroNASCAR 2. Martin Dubeck getting a good start as Guillaume Dumry tries to live with him down the straight and up towards Erst, the first corner. Julia Landauer trying to squeeze away through and up the inside. The two PK Car Sport Chevys almost bounce off each other. That looked a little bit tight, and now it's opened the door for the number 8 car of Alessandro Brigatti to squeeze his way through. Brigatti is off and into the gravel, I'm afraid, and I think Julia Landauer might have gone with him. Yeah, Julia Landauer beached in the gravel and going nowhere, I'm afraid. So that is localised yellow flags there. Could bring about a full course caution, because I don't think Alessandro Brigatti was getting out the gravel either. So what a shame for Julia Landauer. Let's just have a quick look at it again. Yeah, there's contact between the pair of them. I'm not sure whether Brigatti came over on Julia Landauer or whether Landauer just moved slightly, but both of them often in the gravel. Julia Landauer going nowhere. I think Alessandro Brigatti might possibly have escaped with that one. We'll have to wait and see. So the race continuing for the moment. They head over Sacrament-Selly, which is the little crest, before they then head in towards the braking area for the Villeneuve chicane for the first time. Martin Dubeck leading the way in the early stages. There's number 54, that is Ariana Casoli, just running a little bit wide, going offline, working away through the Villeneuve chicane. Right there is number 8 at the tail end of the field, so he did get himself back out of the gravel, Alessandro Brigatti, and that's important for him, because remember, he lies second in the championship standings, so that is not good news for him. He's got work to do, but he's got damage on the car, I'm afraid, and that might just mean it's a bit harder for him to try and work his way through the order. The other car we need to watch out for is the car off the back of the grid, struggling with a stomach upset yesterday. Already, number 22, Andre Castro, I can see, is making really good progress. A big crash in the background by the look of things. We have got bodywork flying up in the air. That is another incident that, again, potentially the race officials will look at and decide whether they want to bring out the full course caution. At this stage, everything is just localised yellow flags. Nose to tail is Andreas Jochumsen at the wheel of the number 66, and safety car is coming out, I'm afraid, so we are going full course caution, and that is going to back the field up just as Martin Dubeck was hoping to get a break on what is lap number 3 that's already been completed. If we include the ones under safety car, then we are going to see everybody backed back up again. Now, the incident at turn number 2 between car number 8, which is Alessandro Brigatti, and number 11, which is Julia Landau, is under investigation, is the news that we are hearing. Other cars that did not come through. Now, there is Alessandro Brigatti also having a big spin and losing the bonnet. A bit more bodywork flying off the car. Looks rather second-hand, doesn't it, at this stage? His Feed Vic Racing number 8 Chevrolet Camaro. It's all cosmetic by the look of things, so there's no real damage to the car. It's a composite body that sits on it, unlike the top NASCAR division in America, which of course is steel-bodied. It's a bit like one of the Busch Series cars. So a composite body, which has shed most of its bodywork. Now, whilst it means that the car is undamaged largely, it's all cosmetic. It will affect the aerodynamics on the car as well, because he's lost the whole of the bonnet, which is going to increase the drag on it. He's lost the rear bodywork as well. So that is going to make the race ever more difficult for a driver who was hoping to have worked his way into a strong position in this one. Another car that has not come round is Matthias Hauer, I'm afraid to say. So I think the number 64 car might also have had an incident. We were talking about him before the race got underway, the 64 car, the Speedhouse car in the hands of the 54-year-old German, who is eligible because of his age for the Legend Trophy. I'll just guide you through those. We've got EuroNASCAR 2 out there, which is the championship, but within that there are various cups as well. So we've got the Legend Trophy, which is for drivers aged 40 years and over that are competing in EuroNASCAR 2. We've got the Rookie Cup, which is for drivers making their NASCAR Whelen Euro Series debuts, and that's regardless of their age or their experience. If it's their first season in EuroNASCAR, they are eligible for the rookie trophy. And also we've got the lady trophy as well, which is for female drivers, which we've seen one of them, unfortunately, Julia Landauer, in the gravel trap. So that hands the lead of the lady trophy to Ariana Cassoli at the wheel of the number 54 car. And Ariana is 2 times a former champion in the lady trophy. That was back in 2016 and 2019. So safety car out there. Let's just run you through the order. Martin Dubec leads on the safety car. Second is the PK Car Sport Chevy of Guillaume Dumery, number 24. And third, I said watch out for him. I said he should make some progress. It's number 98 for Cal Racing, Dylan Dedala, who is also out racing one of the support races here at Zolder this weekend. Fourth is number 12, the Solaris Motorsport Chevy of Nicholas Risitano. And fifth is 42. That's the Shadow Racing Cars Ford Mustang of Francesco Garisto. Up to sixth now is number 66, which is Andreas Jochimsen for DF1 Racing in his Chevy. Seventh is 43, which is Paul van Polart's PK Car Sport Chevy, and Vittorio Garelli is, or was, 8th as they came over the start-finish line. At the wheel of the number 18 Hendricks Motorsport Ford Mustang. 9th is number 50 Tobias Downhau, the championship leader, at the wheel of his Hendricks Ford. 10th is number 1, which is Vladimir Putin for Alex Caffey Racing, and also Race Art Technology, the Cypriot driver with his Ford Mustang. 11th is 88 Max Lancer for Cal Racing. 12th is 54, another Cal Racing car, it's Ariana Cassoli, both of them in Chevrolet Camaros. 13th is number 22, Andre Castro. Well, he started 20th on the grid, so the American's made some good progress already for DF1 Racing in his Chevy. 14th is number 6, which is Simon Palat, another driver that has carved his way up through the orders. The incident there is still in the process of being sorted out, and therefore so they will just have a while to clear the incident and get things sorted out of harm's way. After we've had Simon Palat in 14th position, 15th place is 48, which is the Marco Steep Motorsport Chevy of Yevgen Sokolovsky. 16th is 33, Eric Quintal for Mishu Motors, and then 17th was number 8, Alessandro Brigatti, and 89, the last of the cars that's still running, is Igor Romanov for Not Only Motorsport. So that gives you the full order at this stage. Julia Landauer is showing as being in the pits, so I think she has been removed from the gravel trap now at turn number 2. There's the rather battered car of Alessandro Brigatti, who I gather might have got involved in the incident that's ultimately brought about the safety car, involved in one at turn number 2, and then also involved in an incident with Matthias Hauer. So Matthias often out of the race in the 3rd sector. There is Julia Landau, the PK Car Sport team, just inspecting the car just to clear any debris out of the radiator ducts and brake ducts for it, and try and clear all of the gravel out. They'll also be trying to make sure that any flapping bodywork is dealt with and gaffer tape it all up and get her back out there and into the race, because the points in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, 40 points for a race win. However, for Julia Landauer, if she continues to circulate, then she might pick up a few places. She's in 19th position at the moment. 19th place would still give her 18 championship points. So it's hugely important to try and accumulate as many points as you possibly can. So PK Car Sport are right at pit lane exit end, and are a busy team this weekend. Not only are they fielding cars in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for the likes of Julia Landauer and Guillaume Dumery and Paul van Polart in this race. There are 3 cars for PK this year. They're also fielding cars in some of the support races that we have here as well over the course of this weekend for things like Belcar. So busy old team is PK Car Sport. Anthony Kumpen, the man behind the team, himself a former champion in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, a double former champion, Anthony Kumpen, in EuroNASCAR Pro. He was the champion in 2014, 2016. So cars continuing around under safety car, with a safety car start taking a couple of laps, and then incidents on the first real racing laps. The drivers have had to be just rather patient. Lap number 5 has already been completed now for Martin Dubec. He'll be quite happy to sit behind the safety car and just let the laps tick away, because it's less defending he has to do. Certainly for those cars that rolled the dice on tyres, then for some of them it means that, yeah, the conditions are continually improving, so the slick tyres are probably the way to go now. But for those on wets, they haven't done as many racing laps on the wets, so the wets are actually in a better condition now than they would have been had we been at full race pace. So it's 6 and 2-3s really as to whether you're going to gain advantage or not. Now that is the number 22 car. We just briefly saw there was Andre Castro. It's a driver who was feeling rather under the weather yesterday with some sort of illness or bug that he'd managed to catch, and opted not to qualify, and it was in debate as to whether he was going to race or not. They ultimately decided to rest him yesterday, no doubt with a bit of rest and some medications and making sure that he's properly hydrated as well. Keep the fluids on board and try and flush out whatever bug that you've caught. Then it's great to see that Andre Castro feels, albeit I'm sure not 100% still, but substantively better than he did yesterday, and feels as though he is able to race the car and be competitive today as well, because he has brought that number 22 DF1 Racing Chevrolet Camaro up to 13th position from 20th on the grid. So lots of weaving side to side being done. Ford from Chevy, Ford from Chevy, Ford from Chevy, Ford from Chevy are the top 8 at the moment. So all of the various manufacturers, including the EuroNASCAR FJ cars, as they are badged, all weaving from side to side. There is number 22, Andre Castro. So the reigning esports champion really did have a fantastic esports series, Andre Castro. He, compared to some of the drivers, didn't have quite the same rig as some of the drivers whose rigs with their PCs and their gaming setups with their chairs and everything else looked really, really professional. Andre, it's a good gaming PC that he'd got, but it's really just an office chair, a computer desk, and his steering wheel strapped to it. So, considering he hadn't got a full gaming rig, he was staggeringly quick in every single round that we had during the almost worldwide COVID lockdown. At least we got some racing in, and I'm hoping that for the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series there'll be another E-Series over the course of the 2019-2020 season. We'll keep you posted on social media with regards to that as and when news breaks. So safety car should be in at the end of this lap. This is lap number 6 that they are on of the scheduled 15, and then once we get going, hopefully we'll be green all of the way. So safety car just bringing them around through Boulderberg Booked, the instruction being given to get themselves into 2x2 order. The PK Car Sport guys and girls have managed to sort out Julia Landauer's car, so she is now travelling as quickly as she can to try and catch the train, but I think she's going to be a little bit too late to catch the cars before the green flag is given. So the leading train of cars will be heading up towards the Jackie Itch chicane. Julia Landauer is not going to be able to join in. Oh, she might be able to, you know. She's pushing so hard, she might just catch the tail end of it. So safety car peels its way into the little gap that exists for it at the Jackie Itch chicane. So we are about to get things back underway side by side, remember, for the restarts as well. Martin Dubec and Guillaume Dumoulin. Julia Landauer isn't quite going to catch the train. She's only just now turning away out of Boulderberg Booked as the leading cars are about to head over the start-finish line. Green flag is about to be waved. We get things back underway here at Circuit Zolder, side by side between Martin Dubec and Guillaume Dumoulin for the lead of the race, but it is just the Czech driver ahead of the Belgium as they turn their way in towards Erst for the first time. It looks as though Dylan Derdala had settled into third position, but he's coming under attack as Nicholas Risitano tries to slide the Solaris Motorsport Chevy up the inside. The two orange cars absolutely together when they disappeared out of shot. Now, has Nicholas Risitano made it through? Dropped from third to fourth in the championship standings yesterday. No, he didn't make it through, and now he's coming under attack from the 66 car, the white car with its light green flashes in the hands of the Danish driver Andreas Jacobsen. Down the straight in towards the braking area for the cleaner chicane. Martin Dubec from Guillaume Dumoulin. It looks as though we are side by side on the way in towards the cleaner chicane. The number 42 car, Francesco Garisto, bounces over the curbs and looks to try and gain the place, but you have to be careful how much curb you take. As you heard from Jacques Villeneuve, can damage the cars if you take too much of it, but Garisto has made it through. Shortcutting the Jacques Villeneuve chicane goes number 12, Nicholas Risitano, which means that Andreas Jacobsen is now hot on his heels as they turn their way out of Telamen-Bocht and then start to build the speeds again up towards turn number 12, the heavy braking area for Boulderberg-Bocht, which is where the cars are turning their way through now, through the right-hander. See the queue of cars forming up behind Nicholas Risitano, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, all together as they head down the straight and in towards the braking area for the Jackie Itch chicane, where yesterday's race winner and first-time race winner in the EuroNASCAR 2, Martin Dubec, with his Hendricks Ford, still continues to lead the race. into the pit lane, I'm afraid. That is the championship leader. Tobias Downhau heads to the pit lane. Now, is that a drive-through penalty for something, or is that a problem with the car? We'll have to wait and see, but that has been an awful weekend for the championship leader. That is going to drop him either way, all the way down through the order, whilst Martin Dubeck is doing what he did yesterday, just pulling out the advantage, leading by just under a second as they completed 7 laps of the race. So we're at the half-distance point almost now in this race. Good fight going on for second and third place as Dylan Derdala sneaks up the inside of his fellow countryman. So that means that Derdala now moves up into second position. Guillaume Dumery, a former race winner here at Zolder, drops down into third place. Derdala is also the leading rookie that we have in the order as well. Gather that incident between car number 43 and 50 is under investigation now. Number 50 is Tobias Downhau, 43 is Paul van Poelaert. So that is under investigation by race control at the moment. And Tobias Downhau, so it's been a difficult weekend for the championship leader, who is surely going to lose the lead of the championship with this poor result. The car still residing in the pits at the moment and has not as yet retaken to the circuit. Thundering noise the cars make. Pure racing, remember, in these conditions. There's no ABS, there's no traction control, there's no electronics at all for any of the drivers, so they've got to drive to the conditions, which are evolving all of the time as well. It's damp and breezy this morning. The circuit is slowly drying as Martin Dubeck continues to build his advantage over Dylan Derdala at this stage. Guillaume Dumery settling into third position. Nicholas Risitano in fourth. There's still got a great queue of cars behind him. So leading 3, look at the fight for fourth place. Here's Nicholas Risitano, got Andres Jochimsen right behind him. Then Vittorio Garelli, who's gained a place this time. He is now up into 6th position. Francesco Garisto drops down into 7th. And Jochimsen trying to see what he can do to try and sneak and hang on to what is 5th position. I don't think Vittorio Garelli is quite going to let him do it, though. So Garelli now up into 5th place. Tobias Downhau is back out of the pit lane. So whatever has been the problem with this Hendricks Ford, they're happy that they have sorted. And now have had a change for the lead as Dylan Derdala goes through into the lead of the race. Martin Dubeck drops down into second. This must be to do with the tyres choices that they've made, that some drivers just don't seem to have the pace at the moment, and Dylan Derdala is absolutely flying. Nothing that Martin Dubeck could do about that. Yellow flags in towards the braking area for the Villeneuve chicane. That's turn number 8. So that's a problem for somebody that's dropped down through the order. I think it might be Max Lancer, because I don't think he came through at the end of the previous lap, the Italian for Cal Racing. And whatever the problem is for him, it means that also now we are going full course caution once more, I'm afraid to say. So out comes the safety car. Dylan Derdala having just taken the lead of the race. Now, are they going to shuffle the order? We'll have to wait and see. Dylan Derdala, though, absolutely flying. Safety car is coming out at the end of this lap, but Dylan Derdala has gone purple through sector 1, purple through sector 2, so was arguably on for the best lap of the race, but of course the safety car has rather undone some of that. So Dylan Derdala absolutely revelling in these conditions, and I think as and when we hopefully get the opportunity to chat to at least the race winner at the end of this race, Andre, part of the media team for NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, will be hopefully in victory lane to grab a word with them. Tyres, I think, is the big question, because I think some drivers and teams collectively have rolled the dice one way on tyres, and it was clearly working for Dylan Derdala before this safety car came out. We did see Dylan yesterday in the race just being careful, and he was one of the cars that was very clearly on a wet track that was drying, was moving over on the straights onto the wet part of it to try and cool the tyres down. So he was very intelligent with the approach to the race yesterday and making sure that he looked after his tyres, and it might be a very intelligent decision that the team have made here this time through. There is the number 33 Michoud Motors car. That is Eric Quintal. See all the debris and detritus on the front of that car. We're heading towards autumn, of course, now. A mixture of leaves and a bit of debris on the front of it, on the radiator grills. So for the driver, it's just a case of continually just double checking temperatures in the car as well, oil temperatures and water temperatures, because if you've got things like that on the front of the car, it's just slowing some of the cooling air and the effect down as you are heading around the circuit. And at lower speeds, you're not pushing the engine as hard, but you're also not getting the same amount of airflow in as well. So now's the time as a driver under safety car. you're still doing just as much work as you were racing. More, you could argue, because they're having to weave from side to side to try and continually maintain tyre temperature and brake temperature. You're keeping your eye on all of the gauges. You'll have the spotter and the team chatting to you in your ear as well as to what is going on. And then we can see as to whether we are going to go back to green flag racing again very shortly. For the moment, though, Dylan Dairdala just weaving from side to side. He's really working the car, as is the number 12 as well, which is the car of Nicholas Risitano. So Dairdala leads, number 98. Martin Dubeck second. Third is 24, Guillaume Dumry. That car there is fourth, which is number 12, Nicholas Risitano. Fifth is 18, Vittorio Garelli. And sixth is number 66, Andreas Jochumsen, who was a driver who was sort of going off the boil a little bit. His car was struggling in the conditions, Andreas Jochumsen. So he will be, I'm sure, quite happy the safety car comes out, because if he knows that he's made the wrong decision with regards to tyres, it allows him to have a few more laps behind safety car, which means there's less defensive work needing to be done for the rest of the race. So it's a Ford 1-2 at the moment. First of the Chevys is down in third position, which is Guillaume Dumry's PK Car Sport. And as for the teams, well, it's a Cal Racing car that leads the race. It's Hendricks Motorsport in second, PK Car Sport that is there in third, Solaris in fourth, and Hendricks in fifth, with DF1 Racing in sixth. But that's the order on the track. We will go back to the order that they were in just prior to the safety car coming out. So that means that Dylan Dairdala, his overtake over Martin Dubeck is not going to count. They will reorder those cars, and it will put Martin Dubeck back into the lead, I'm afraid. But I think the pace that Dylan Dairdala had will probably mean he's got sufficient in hand that he should be able to work his way back through again. Just came at the wrong time, didn't it, really, the safety car? Dylan Dairdala got the job done. Same lap out comes the safety car, which means you go back to the positions that they were in before the safety car came out, the lap prior. So Dylan Dairdala is tasked with trying to take the lead again, I'm afraid. So the incident is not far off being cleared, I wouldn't have thought now. We need to make sure that we've got all the cars in the correct order, but we're not going to have that done by the end of this lap, so there'll be one further lap behind safety car, which means this is now lap number 10 that is about to be completed. They'll head on to lap number 11, and we should get 4 green flag laps hopefully in what has been a difficult race. Julia Landauer heading back into the pit lane. So into the pit lane comes the number 11 PK Car Sport Chevy of the American. We'll also see, also heading down pit lane as well, Max Lancer, I think that was. So lots of weaving to try and maintain that tyre temperature. Some drivers working harder than others to weave the car. Martin Dubeck and Dylan Dairdala working terribly hard. There's Julia Landauer heading all the way back down the pit lane, back towards the bottom of the pit lane where the PK Car Sport team are, and that car's being pushed back into the garage, I'm afraid. Yeah, the way that the car has spun round, Julia Landauer, I'm sad to say, is out of the race, a race which never really got going for her, following that contact between herself and Alessandro Bugatti. Excuse me, pitched the car into the gravel. Clearly some damage on there, and Julia Landauer has decided to retire the car. And there's also Tobias Downhau in as well, having some replacement tyres put on that car. They are limited to the amount of tyres that they can utilise now over the course of a weekend, but of course with a wet race yesterday, they were all on wet tyres, so they are able to save their slicks for this one. And this could be a clever decision by the team for Tobias Downhauer, who will hopefully remain on the lead lap, but what they do need to do is get that car switched from what I imagine are wet tyres onto slick tyres, and then if he can try and catch the train again, he should be flying towards the end of this one. But how many places he'll be able to make up in what is only a 4-lap sprint to the flag is a bit of a moot point, really. But it's a good roll of the dice. So the lineup is now okay. That has been confirmed to us in our commentary box here in Belgium from race control, and then we will very shortly get the order as the cars head in towards the Villeneuve chicane. This is turn number 8 and 9. It is turn number 12 where they will get themselves ordered into side-by-side positions. 2 lines of cars, bumper to bumper, door handle to door handle, and again, they're not allowed to break out of those 2 lines of cars until they reach the start-finish line on this restart. So through turn number 11, which is Telemann Bucht, and then down the straight towards turn 12, Oldenburg Bucht, And it's at that point of the circuit, heading through the tight right-hander, just coming up here, that on the exit of it, the order will be given to the drivers that they need to get themselves again into 2x2 order for the restart, which is coming up very, very shortly indeed. They're on lap number 11 at the moment, so we've got 12, 13, 14 and 15 to go. 4 laps of pure racing to sort out who is going to claim the second of the EuroNASCAR 2 races here at Circuit Zolder. And I'll return to the circuit. It's been the home of the Belgium NASCAR Grand Prix since 2015. It's always been the final round. For this year, it was never scheduled to be the final round, so it's good to be back here, but for the drivers, it's just single points available for them, just 40 points for the win, whereas every other time we've come, it's double points for the finals, remember. That will be coming up at Circuit Ricardo Tormo in early December when we finally get the season done and dusted. So we're about to go green again. Martin Dubeck back onto the front of the grid, and with Dylan Daerdala alongside him once more, looking to try and take up the lead of the race. He'd done it before the safety car, but with the reordering, he's got it all to do again, I'm afraid to say. Green flag flies, they head up towards the braking area for Erst for the first time, in towards the right-hander. Martin Dubeck leads, but now Dylan Daerdala's coming under pressure from his teammate Guillaume Dumouriez in the mix, as well as the number 12 car, which is Nicholas Risitano for Solaris Motorsport. And Dylan Daerdala, I think there was contact there as he turned in, and Nicholas Risitano was trying to sneak up the inside, and I think both of them have taken each other out, and that has now given an enormous lead to Martin Dubeck on this restart. Couldn't have gone any better for him as far as he was concerned, because he leads by a country mile now as a result of those problems further back. I think Daerdala got going, but has dropped down through the order. It is going to be Martin Dubeck that leads the race. It is going to be Vittorio Garelli who is in second place. Third place is going to be the car of Francesco Garisto, I think, as he leaps over the curves. But the safety car, I gather, is coming back out again, so we're not going to go green all of the way. We are going back to safety car conditions. We will have to reorder the field again, one would have thought, and all of this whilst the cars are now already on their 12th lap of the race, with 15 being the scheduled distance. So Martin Dubeck will be distraught that he'd managed to get a nice little breakaway as a result of the incident that happened behind him between Dylan Daerdala and Nicholas Risitano. Risitano is still going, I think. Let's just have a quick look. Nicholas Risitano didn't make it to the end of sector... No, Dylan Daerdala's in sector 3 somewhere at the moment, so he is definitely going again. It's just that the lightest of touches between the two of them, and I think that Risitano thought that he'd got enough space. There's Dylan Daerdala, so he is still circulating. Just keep an eye towards Nicholas Risitano and see if he's made it out. And also for the car off the back of the grid that had just changed its tyres, Tobias Downhau, this is not good news either, because he was hoping for more racing laps that he could really charge. One driver that did gain places, won't matter again by the time we get reordered, is number 22, Andre Castro. He was able to swerve his way through the incident and had climbed to what I think, coming over the start-finish line, is going to be 4th position potentially. But all of that will not count for a great deal by the time we get any reordering done. So Martin Dubeck still working hard, leading 4 cars over the start-finish line. And then a big old gap back with nobody appearing in 5th place at the moment. So this is a race that has never really had a flow to it. It's been interrupted. It was started by safety car. We got a couple of laps going, and then we ended up with incidents even at turn number 2, which then with a further incident early on in the number of racing laps then brought about a safety car period. We've had a second safety car period, and now we're into our 3rd period of safety car, which is meaning that we've never really had a huge flow to this one. We've actually only had 6 green flag laps, I'm afraid to say. 6 safety car laps as well, so the number of safety car laps is equal to the number of green flag laps at the moment. And we've had really just one change of lead, Martin Dubeck to Dylan Daerdala, but that was undone again through one of those safety car periods. So Martin Dubeck sitting behind the safety car. the order behind it at the moment is number 18, Vittorio Garelli, is second, so it's a Hendricks Motorsport Ford 1-2 at the moment. It's another Ford that's there in third position, which is 42, Francesco Garisto. Now remember, Francesco is the youngest driver in the field, just 17 years of age, and that car there, number 22, is off the back of the grid and is up into fourth position. Andre Castro for DF1 Racing. The American has kept his nose clean at the wheel of the 22 Chevy and is now probably not even thinking about the stomach upset that he had 24 hours ago. He'll be absolutely delighted that this race has gone exactly to plan for him. And Ariana Cassoli is in fifth position at the wheel of the number 54 Cal Racing Chevy. Huge amounts of experience for Ariana, who's been in this championship for a few years now and is the leading Cal Racing car that we have in the field at the moment, following those problems for Dylan Derdala. So 54, Ariana Cassoli is fifth. Sixth is number 8, Alessandro Brigatti. Well, he was in the gravel trap at turn number 1, dropped all the way down to the bottom of the order. The Feedvic Racing number 8 car in the hands of the young Italian is all the way back into 6th place now. 7th is 98, Dylan Derdala. 8th is number 6, Simon Palat. 9th is 89, which is Igor Romanov. And completing the top 10 is number 48, which is Yevgen Sokolovsky. So that gives you the order of the top 10 currently. Our leading rookie is in third place, Francesco Garisto, so he is at the moment the leading rookie that we've got in the field. The leading legend that we've got in the field is Ariana Cassoli, and the leading lady that we have in the field is also Ariana Cassoli as well. So that's the order that they circulate in, but we will now be having race control, looking back at what the positions were prior to the safety car, and a bit of reordering I'm sure will be done again. So 13 laps completed, 2 to go. Green, white, checkered is available to us should we need it, but no confirmation as yet from race control as to whether we are going to go green, white, checkered or whether we are going to finish under safety car here at Circuit Zolder. Martin Dubeck seems to have had the pace all weekend really, claiming his first career win in EuroNASCAR 2 yesterday. The Czech driver, the 25-year-old, who's been racing in these cars for 5 years now. 2015 was the first time that we saw Martin Dubeck behind the wheel of a NASCAR Whelen Euro Series car. And as he said yesterday in Victory Lane, absolutely delighted. It's been a long time coming, his first career win. And as the old saying goes, a bit like buses, you wait for one and two come along at once. And that could be what Martin Dubeck is faced with here. Having waited so long for his first win, it could be a double win before his home NASCAR Grand Prix at Most, and that would give him enormous momentum, as you have picked up at least one win, but to have 2 over a weekend, have all of that momentum and then carry that momentum to your home NASCAR Grand Prix would be absolutely perfect for him. There's the rather battered car of Alessandro Brigatti, the Feedvic Racing Chevy, with the whole front of it and the bonnet missing and the rear boot of the car missing, or the rear fender missing off the car. Reordering being done by race control. Bit of debris falling off cars as well. That is that's a bit of air duct that's being dragged around by the number 12 car of Nicholas Rizzitano. So I thought it was a bit of debris falling off, but no, it's attached to the car. It's a bit of ducting that has come unwound. It's sort of circular ducting that's got a wire that wraps its way around it, and what's happened is, yes, the ducting has broken, the wire's come unravelled, but the back section of it is still full and whole, so you can see a bit of ducting there, but you can't quite pick up on the wire that connects that bit of ducting back to the car again. So it's being chased around by bits of its own bodywork, the number 12 Chevy. So lap number 14 about to be completed. Still no news with regards to a green, white, checkered, and means that we will be heading on to one more safety car lap, and then from there we could potentially be faced with either safety car finish or a quick green, white, checkered, depending on how many more safety car laps are required. So I think reordering must almost be there now. The incident has been cleared. Reordering in the process of just being finalised. But for the moment, Dubeck from Garelli, Garisto from Castro, Brigatti and Cassoli, Derdala, Pilat, Sokolovsky and Eric Quintal this time. So there is a bit of reordering being done. Igor Romanov has dropped down couple of positions that time. So as the field is reordered. There is the number 33 car of Eric Quintal. He will be the third driver in the Legend Trophy at the moment. The car that's ahead of him for this restart is second in the Legend Trophy. So there is Andreas Jochumsen, the DF1 Racing Chevrolet Camaro is being hoisted onto the back of the breakdown truck, and it looks as though we are going to run out of time to even go green-white checkered in this one, with time pressures on what is a busy day here at Circuit Zolder. We are not going to go green-white checkered. We are going to finish this race under safety car, which is enormous frustration for some drivers. It will be very frustrating for those of you that have tuned in as well, because we, on this occasion, haven't been able to bring you too much pure racing, I'm afraid. We have had, I think, more safety car laps now than we will have had racing laps. So, yeah, at the moment, 14 laps completed, 8 of them under safety car. That will become 9. Only 6 of them are going to be racing laps. So that is a frustrating finish for EuroNASCAR 2, but of course we do have the EuroNASCAR Pro Race coming up a little bit later on over the course of, well, this afternoon if you're in Europe. It'll be later on over the course of the morning if you've tuned in over in the States and are watching us there. So we'll bring you details on that very shortly, but what we can confirm is that the race will finish on the safety car, and that being the case, we'll be chatting to double race winner now, Martin Dubeck. He's got to take the checkered flag first, but it's going to be a great weekend for him. As we say, hadn't claimed a win in EuroNASCAR 2 until yesterday, and very much, as I said earlier on, a bit like buses, you wait for one and all of a sudden 2 come along at once. They always say the first one is the hardest one to get, and once you've got that monkey off your back almost, you've got that first win, it just means that everything starts to drop into place that little bit easier. And for Martin Dubeck, he is going to have had the perfect weekend, really, a bit like Tobias Downhau had at Vallelunga, claiming both wins, maximum points over the course of a weekend. Well, for Martin Dubeck, who was not present at Vallelunga, he couldn't make it because of COVID-19. Well, what a way to bounce back after disappointment at the first weekend of racing, where he was a very frustrated spectator back home in Czechia. Safety car peels in. The cars will get going again, but as soon as they come out of the chicane, it won't be a green flag that will greet them. It will be the checkered flag that will greet them. And for Martin Dubeck, it is going to be 2 out of 2 here at Circuit Zolder, and the perfect weekend for him. So Martin Dubeck claims the win with only 6 racing laps completed, 9 laps behind safety car. He grabs the win. Vittorio Garelli finishes in 2nd position, and Francesco Garisto finishes in 3rd place. Francesco is the leading rookie home as well. He looks pleased with that, doesn't he, Francesco Garisto, for Shadow Racing Cars by 42 Racing. He'd be very pleased indeed with that result for him. Just 17 years of age as well. Remember, he's the youngest driver that we've got in the field. 4th place from 20th on the grid. He's clearly feeling a lot better than he did 24 hours ago when he opted not to race because of a stomach upset. Number 22, Andre Castro for DF1 Racing finishes in 4th position. And 5th place goes the way of the number 8 car of Alessandro Brigatti. 6th is the leading lady home, and also the winner of the Legend Trophy as well, number 54, Ariana Castley. But I'll give you the full rundown of the results very shortly. It's a Ford 1-2-3 as well, so it's a Hendricks 1-2, it's a Ford 1-2-3, the leading Chevy home in 4th position. So victory lane is just about to be prepared for the cars, and Martin Dubeck for the 2nd time this weekend is going to head in towards victory lane as a very happy chap. He'll have to wear a mask for the interview, but you can bet your bottom dollar that underneath that mask there is going to be a big smile from ear to ear for the Czech driver, who has claimed his 2nd career win in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. It will move him up the championship standings as well. Remember, he was sort of in 20th position in the championship standings, but that's only because he wasn't able to compete at Vallelunga. Had he have gone out there, he would have been one of the drivers that was right at the sharp end of the racing, that's for sure. How much luck he'd have had, we don't know, because he was never there. We will never know, but it does move him well and truly up in the championship standings. And if you can keep that momentum heading towards Czechia and Most for his home NASCAR Grand Prix in a few weeks' time, then he will then hopefully be in a strong position as we head towards the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series finals that will be coming up. If you want to join us for the racing at Most, then it is being held over the weekend of the 14th and 15th of November is when we head towards Most in the Czech Republic, so keep your eye towards our social media for all of that. And also then, if you want to tune in for the doubleheader Valencia weekend, it is going to be held over the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th of December. The actual format for the racing not absolutely confirmed as yet as to whether it's going to be racing on each one of those days or whether it's all of the races crammed in over the course of the Friday, the Saturday and the Sunday. But again, it will all be identified and released on social media as and when. We've still got one more race as well coming up. That will be later on today for EuroNASCAR Pro. We'll see whether it is going to be a double win for Lasse Sorensen in that, the big Dane who is the reigning EuroNASCAR 2 champion, stepping up to EuroNASCAR Pro for this year and claiming a victory in his second weekend of racing in his full season of NASCAR Pro racing. We did see him do an outing or two in EuroNASCAR Pro last year, but he then opted just to concentrate on the EuroNASCAR 2 championship because it was going so well. So for a driver to step up from this category, EuroNASCAR 2 to EuroNASCAR 1 and win so early on is rather unusual. And depending on how his seasons go, we might see Martin Dubeck stepping up full-time into EuroNASCAR Pro potentially next year. We've seen him out in it in the past, but the way things are going for him, he is, I'm sure, maybe re-evaluating that after this season, maybe make the jump full-time into the top flight. So he's about to very shortly jump out of the car. The car is there in victory lane, just waiting for the rest of the cars to feed their way through, and then we can get him out of the car and get things underway. So Martin Dubeck is given the thumbs up that all is good. Down comes the window netting, and he will head out of the car and stand on the roof. That is absolutely for sure, because it has surely been the perfect weekend for the 25-year-old Czech driver. A double race victory here at Circuit Zolder in EuroNASCAR 2. And, well, he's still got one further race to look forward to as well, because we should have seen in EuroNASCAR Pro this weekend the British driver Daniel Rowbottom driving that car. But Daniel cannot travel because of current coronavirus restrictions here in the UK. Or if he did travel, he'd have to self-isolate for 14 days. It is Martin Dubeck who has opted to take over the car and drive it in both EuroNASCAR 2 and the top division EuroNASCAR Pro. So off comes the gloves, off comes the crash helmet, and then once we have got our cameraman ready, we should be able to grab a quick word with our race-winning driver. On, or out go the earplugs, and then on will have to go the mask, and then socially distanced interviews will take place as and when we've got our team and our cameraman in position. So Martin Dubeck, perfect weekend for him. So it moves him up in the championship standings, and well, all of that momentum, 2 race wins now under his belt, and his next race will be, if we exclude the one this afternoon in EuroNASCAR Pro, his next race in EuroNASCAR 2 will be in his native country, in the Czech Republic or Czechia, depending on what you wish to call it. And he is not going to be short of support for that one there. So mask is on. Final quick chat with the mechanics. The car will then go for quick technical check, and then we'll be back in the hands of the team, readied for the EuroNASCAR Pro race that takes place a little bit later on this afternoon. Understandably, that means a lot to the Hendricks Motorsport team. So let's
finally again. So I'm really happy. Was not easy like yesterday, but too many safety cars. But I'm really happy that first position again.
So I see you were on wet tires. Was it easy or was it a tough challenge for you?
For first few laps it was good, but some guys had slick tires, so. It was not easy because the 98 was in front of me, but after the restart I was first. He had crashed, so I think it was good that we used rain tires.
So the next race is your home race at the Czech Republic at Most. What do you expect?
So I hope that I will do some good show for them, for my Czech visitors, and I hope it will be a podium again.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations, Martin Dubeck.
There we go. So apologies if we just tripped over the front of that interview there. So that was Andre, who is working down there in the pit lane with Martin Dubeck, who, as he just said, you know, all of the support that he will have in his native country in the Czech Republic he'll be looking forward to that one. I think we might be able to give you a full rundown of the order, that we could just confirm the results for that race that we've just seen. So there wasn't that much of it that happened, really green flag racing. There are the wet general tyres that are on board that number 7 car. I did say at the very beginning of this programme, tyre choice was going to be critical. I didn't expect as many safety car laps as we had, so it did mean that, yeah, Martin Dubek was able to hang on to those tyres that otherwise, under full green flag conditions, would have been worked a lot harder. So confirmation of the results, and it's a win. Number 7, Martin Dubek, claims the win. In second place is Vittorio Garelli, and third place, but the leading rookie home, is Francesco Garisto. Andre Castro from the back of the grid finished in 4th place, ahead of Alessandro Brigatti. And in 6th place, the leading legend driver home, and the winner of the Lady Trophy as well, was Ariana Casserly. Dylan Daredala finished in 7th place, with Simon Palat and Yevgeny Sokolovsky and Eric Quintal completing the top 10. 11th was Vladimir Putin. 12th was Igor Romanov, and Tobias Downhau, who was the championship leader, but I think mathematically will have lost the lead by a few points now, finished in 13th position. 14th place, last of the cars to take the checker flag, was Nicholas Risitano. Problems for Paul van Poelhout and Guillaume Dumery, as well as Andreas Jochumsen, Max Lancer, Julia Landauer and Matthias Hauer, all had their problems over the course of what was quite a fraught EuroNASCAR 2 race. But the teams will get the cars ready, because the EuroNASCAR Pro race, their final race of the weekend and the final race that we'll be broadcasting, is scheduled to get underway at around about 4 Central European summertime. The stream will go live though 15 minutes before that, so tune in 16:05 Central European summertime. If you're watching over in America, thank you for joining us so early in the morning for you guys and girls over there, but go back to bed, have a little bit of sleep, and come and join us for the final race of the weekend here for the EuroNASCAR Pro. The stream will go live at 10 Eastern Daylight Time in the US. So from all of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series team here in Belgium and supporting us back in the UK, goodbye for now. We'll see you again later on today at Circuit Zolder.